Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we're going to cover melody. Okay, so let's define melody so it's nice and clear what we're trying to achieve. And these definitions were from the Oxford Dictionary, the most accurate and most concise dictionary out there. So melody is the sequence of notes which are pleasing. It's a sequence of notes which are pleasing. That's all it is. Okay, so once we understand what melody really is, we can understand how to achieve it. So let's look at the word pleasing. Okay, things that please you might not please me. So that means melody is subjective. And if you look at the definition of music in the Oxford Dictionary, it's the creation of beauty using voice and instrument to create harmonies as well. So we're creating beauty, and we all know beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It changes. Certain people are not going to love the melodies that you make. That's just how it is. That doesn't mean you need to go change it 1,000 times. It's just that certain people are not going to like the melodies that you make. And this is one reason why we have different genres of music. You may not like classical music. It may be boring to you, but you like the repetitive dance rhythms and the dance melodies from Drake's songs. Okay, but you might not like the classical ensembles because they're boring. The melodies are good, but they're boring. Okay, so it changes. Your likes and dislikes change amongst everybody. So we're not all going to like the same thing. That is the biggest point here, because you don't need to change your melody 1,000 times. Okay, so a melody is a sequence of notes. Now also what a melody is a principal part of what's called harmonized music. Now you might not know what harmony really is. So if melody is a principal part, a huge part of harmonized music, let's look at the definition of harmony. Now I'm doing this before we start because it's essential you understand the differences between all of these and understand the links so that you can make a better parallel about your product that you're going to create using melody. Let's look at the word harmony. Okay, harmony is a combination of simultaneously sounded musical notes to make chords and chord progressions. So basically it's when you play multiple notes at a time and it builds a chord. That is a chord progression or a series of chords. Okay, so that's what harmony is. Now the question is, how can melody and harmony team up together? And this is what we go over in the Music Theory Essentials at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory if you want more clarity. But a song is really a combination of a melody, and then from the melody we can build out chord progressions. It's a system we call it the pseudo-leading tone. Basically, we're using the melody of a chord progression. Now, that sounds weird, but you can actually have notes guide you through a chord progression. And that's somewhat of a melody's function, to guide you through. It's a sequence of notes which are pleasing. And this is what we call the pseudo-leading tones. Okay, so literally, you can take one-note melodies and build chords from them to harmonize the melody. That's how you have to think about melody before you even get into it. A lot of people think the chords and the melody are two separate things. Think of it this way. Melody is the core thing of a song. Chord progressions are an expansion of the melody. If you had one singer singing in a church and she's singing a nice solo, and then the background choir comes in and starts following her lead through the notes, what is the melody really doing? The melody is guiding the chord progression. So the melody is the core essential thing. And from the melody, you can build out everything else, the chords and everything else. So there's a system for that. So that is the strength of melody. Once you understand the power of melody and its purpose, now you can really dig in and make better decisions when it comes to your melody. So one last thing we're going to look at is the parallel and definitions here. Melody is a sequence of notes which are pleasing. Great. A scale is a sequence of notes ordered in pitch which are pleasing, right? How many scales do we have in music? We have tons of scales. The Arabic scale. Okay, we have the Arabic scale. We have the Japanese scales. We have major, minor scales. We have the blues scale. We have the Egyptian scales. There's so many scales out there. All scales is a preference of notes. That's all it is a sequence of notes that someone prefers. They're human-made. They're man-made. preferences, and they're all subjective. So again, it mirrors the melody. It's a sequence of notes. So since a scale is a sequence of notes and a melody is a sequence of notes, it's a good technique to combine the two to help you out. So today we're going to start with what's called a scale to build our melody, because they are essentially doing the same thing for the most part. They're both sequences of notes. Okay, so I'm going to build a random scale. I'm not even going to worry about which type of scale it is. Okay, we go into more depth about major and minor scales again at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory. So let's just start here. Actually, let's keep it simple. Let's build out the A natural minor scale so you can follow along and not get too confused. So the A natural minor scale consists of what's called a scale code, and we go over these in music theory in a day. Okay, but anyway, to keep it simple, it's all the white notes starting from A. That's the A natural minor scale. It's just a sequence of notes which we want to hear in a specific order. Your ear, your inner brain, will tell you the note it expects, and this is a key element in music. We expect certain notes. We want to hear certain notes, and there's a reason behind that. Just like in chemistry, hydrogen wants to bond with oxygen to make water. There are certain affinities in chemicals that we have the same affinities to expect a certain tone. It's just based on how we're built in this universe. Okay, so let's start on the note A. Now, once you have 3 to 4 notes within a scale, you can literally find out the rest of the notes within a scale just by ear. So if you have about 3 clustered notes or 4 clustered notes, good. You can probably figure out the scale of your song just with those notes. All you want to do is listen to the note you expect in your head. Listen to your brain. Your brain is a huge computer, better than the computer you're working on. So you need to start with your head before you worry about this thing in front of you called a computer. Okay? So our ear will tell us what we want to hear. Duh. Okay? You expect to hear duh. Your brain is telling you duh. Okay? So we need to find that tone. Duh. And there it is, the note E. So this is the A natural minor scale. There are different types of minor scales. I'm not going to get into everything about scales right now. But what we're going to do is build this scale from A to A. Notice I stopped at A and started at A. And I'm going to duplicate the scale. So I'm hitting Shift to duplicate the highlighted notes. And I'm going to turn the volume down so it doesn't trigger the notes. The point here is that I'm going to multiply the octave of the scale. And what we're building right now is a scale reference. We're using these notes to know which notes we can play in a melody. Okay, so it makes it a lot easier when it comes to writing out music and writing out chords. And as long as you know the bottom and top note, you can't get it wrong. So we have here A, we're starting on A, we end at A. Be careful that you do start and end at the root note of the scale, the note you start on, so that you can duplicate it through the different octaves. Because sometimes you might make an error and can throw off your whole perspective of how to use this technique. So as long as you do that, you'll be fine. So now we have notes which we can use. These are all notes which go together in what's called a scale, a sequence of notes which we prefer. So since they go together, these are options to use for our melody to create a sequence of notes which we think are pleasing. Almost the same thing as a scale, except instead of going up and down, we're going left to right. So a scale is going to be on the right side. So once you have your scale reference, let's start on the root note. Generally speaking, when you're writing songs, you usually start on the root note or the key of the song. And the key of this song is A minor. Now, how do I know that? It's because you look at the root note or the starting note where we build the scale, and then you look at the type of scale. So this is a natural minor scale. So our song is in A natural minor. It's just like chords. If I write a chord here, and let's make this a major chord, for example, G, B, D. The reason I call this G major is because it has a major chord code to it, and we go over chord codes, basically how to create any chord, and there's a free chord code book at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory. So there's a reason why chords are chords. It has nothing to do with the scale. It actually has to do with numbers, and you can learn that system for free, and it's nice and easy. So anyway, this is a major chord, and it will always be a major chord. The reason why we call it G major is because we're looking at the root note, and then we're looking at the type of chord. So the root note is G, and the type of chord is a major. So we call this G major. So that's where the naming comes from in music. So when you say the key is in A natural minor, you're looking at the root note or the starting note of your scale, and then you're looking at the type of scale. It's a minor scale. So that's where the naming comes from. Okay. So I wanted to clear that up just so you understand what the key is of a song. So let's start at the root note of the song, which is going to be A. Now, our ear treats A as what's called a tonic or a home location. And in music, you're taking people on a journey. You're going from home to somewhere else along the journey, back home. That's why I hear a lot of songs talking about home, coming back home. Okay, this is the affinity we're talking about. This is just how the universe is built. So this is going to be our tonic or our home key or our root note. There are many different names for the same thing. Okay, so that's where we're going to focus on. We're going to start here and return here for the most part. You don't have to, but that's how we're going to structure our melody. Now, I'm not going to make a huge long melody, but you could. Okay, with music theory, there's a song on our YouTube page at youtube.com/BusyWorksBeats. If you go check it out, it's called Mystery or Mysterious. I think it's called Mystery. I don't even know the title of my own song, but it has a super long chord progression and it has a very long melody. And we use the techniques from the Music Theory Essentials, okay, to create that long melody. So there are a lot of aspects of melody. I'm not going to get into every aspect of melody. So let's just start on our root note here. We're going to use the metronome to help us measure our rhythm. The only way you really know your rhythm in music is when you measure it. You can be completely off beat and think you're creating a greatest rhythm ever. You want to use the metronome as your guide on how to measure your song. Let's just slow the BPM down to 100 BPM. We don't want to work at 140 BPM. That's pretty fast. Let me make sure we're good. Okay, so let's continue the melody. So the question is, where do you go from here? Great, we have a root note. Great, we have a scale mapped out, but how do we create a melody? Your goal in music is to take people on a journey. You can take them on a happy journey, a sad journey, or somewhere in between. In melody, it's very simple to think about it this way. When you go up your scale, you're creating a happier mood. For example, let me go up the scale. When you go down the scale, you create a melancholy or a sad emotion. So downwards, think of it like depression. You're down, you're apathetic, you're low on energy, you're down, you feel depressed, you feel low. When you go downward, literally, music is frequency. Okay, so just like you feel depressed in real life, you feel like you're at a lower frequency in life, music is frequency as well. So when you're going lower on the keyboard, it creates this more depressing tone because you're going downward. When you go upward, you're going into higher frequency. Just like when you go to the gym, when you start working out, you feel this high. They call it a high because you feel like you're in a higher frequency because you're putting your body to work. You're becoming more active. You're increasing your frequency. Okay, and that is what ups your frequency there. So the same thing with music. There are highs and lows. When you go up, you're happier. When you go down, you're sad. And in life, there are waves. There are happy points, sad points. And it's the contrast. It's the difference between the two. If there were no high, there'd be no low. If there were no sad, there'd be no happy. If there were no good, there'd be no bad. So there's complete opposites. And in life, there's a balance between the two. The yin and the yang, the waves, whatever you want to call it, the ups and the downs. Okay, it's the same thing in music. You want to go up, down, okay, and back around. Okay, so if you're trying to create a happier melody, go upward. If you're trying to create a sad melody, go downward. So that's the general thought process. Now, once you have your scale mapped out, that's all you have to think about. Should I go up? Should I go down? So whenever you're stuck, just, do I want to be happy here? Do I want to be sad? It makes the melody creation a lot easier, so you don't overthink melody. Now, there are a lot more parameters to melody which make great melodies, and I'm not going to get into all those because I don't have enough time here. I want to keep it as short as possible. But what I wanted to do is clear up the definition of melody so that you understand what it is and define what a scale is so you can combine the two to create nice melodies. Let's create our melody. Let's say I want to start off the melody being in a happy mood. Then I want to take my listener into a dark twist, and then I want to bring them back into the light. So this is probably going to be a longer melody, maybe 8 bars or 16 bars. I'm not really sure how long it will be, but it's going to be pretty long since I have those purposes in mind. So the first thing is to have a purpose. What are you trying to do with your melody? If you have no idea what you're trying to do with your melody, you're not going to do it because there's no goal in mind. There's no result you're trying to achieve. If you didn't know you were trying to get the hot girl in the club, you wouldn't even begin to walk up to her. Okay, so anyway, let's start with our purpose, our desired outcome. So let's go up the scale. Now I'm going to keep this simple using just quarter notes here. But in melody, of course, there are different style notes and different things about melody, which I'm kind of brushing over to keep this video brief. But there are other aspects of melody that we're skipping over. Now, another thing a lot of producers do is they write melodies that have no breaks in them. In great music, you have what are called mutes, places where you do not play a note. So a mute is just as powerful as an actual note. So we're going to go into our happy direction. We're going upward, upward, upward. Now, just because you come down a note or two does not mean you're going to create an instantly sad feeling, because melody is like a balance. Energy is like a balance. If you've taken physics, think of it like potential energy. Okay, when you go up that roller coaster, you're increasing your potential energy to come back down through the force of gravity. So the higher you go, the further down you can go without it feeling too sad. So there's a balance here. So our balance is pretty much positive because we're going up, 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 up. And coming down a little does not really take away from all the upness that we had before. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is not going to instantly make it sad just because we went down a note or two. Now in the second video, we're going to go over why this melody has the structure it does and the importance of structure in your melody. Now that's going to be in the second video because I'm going to explain it from a different perspective. Now all we're doing so far is just using all the white notes and deciding, do we want to go up or down? And I said, what's the purpose of my melody? To make people happy, take them on a dark twist, and make them happy again. So we're going up, 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 up. We're creating the happy mood. It's probably going to last about 4 bars. Around the 5th bar, we're going to start digging into that dark mood by going downward. And we're going to compare when we go upward versus downward. Now, just because you have a scale doesn't mean you have to go in order. For example, we started off A, B, C, D, E, skipped F, went to G. You don't have to go up in specific order. Notice here, I'm starting to skip notes within the scale. We go from E to G and A to D. So I'm starting to skip notes, and that's fine. You don't have to go in that specific order. So you may have been thinking that you have to follow the scale note by note. So I wanted to clear that up. Okay. And literally we can copy this structure. It's just an octave higher. So it's the same structure here, but copied an octave higher. And now we're going to introduce the dark twist. We're going to come down. We're going to start going down just like a roller coaster. We're going up, up, and then we're going to come crashing back down to earth. Let's start back over. Okay, so now we're going to start getting dark. Boom, 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 boom. So that was the wrong jump of energy. And now when we're going down, another technique is to go outside of your scale. So in music theory, we have rules to break rules. And here's where we're going to start introducing the breaking of the rules. And we've introduced a note which is not in our scale, which is A sharp. Now this is used because of tension. And we go over this again at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory about tension and release and et cetera, et cetera. But when we have two notes very close to each other, it creates tension, and especially if one note is outside of the scale. So I'm using this to create a horror-esque type of feel. And notice I'm going in the opposite direction. And we can literally copy that same structure and bring it down here a couple octaves lower. Okay, so it's the same note structure, just in a different frequency range. Actually sounds happy, so let's do that one more time. So I'm actually going to change the notes, but you could do that. That's an option. Okay, so notice how we're going the complete opposite direction with big gaps in between the notes. So first we went in this upward kind of spike direction, and then we went dramatically down, and we're continuously going down, and we're pulling that mood into a sadder, more horrific mood. Okay, so I'm going to end it, and guess where we have ended? On the root note. Okay, so we started at the root note, which is A, and gone upward, and then we land ultimately on the root note again. That is how you create long melodies using just a scale. Now, all we did was think, should we go up or down? It's really that simple if you're just getting started in melody. Now, there are more advanced parameters in melody and advanced things to look at in melody. I know we skipped over them, but for the most part, you can apply this right away. Okay, so the steps here are to identify a scale, okay, and just decide, do you want to create a happy or a sad emotion? Happy is going up the scale. Sadness is going down the scale. And you can create different points in your melody where you want to create happy and sad points. And it's the combination of the two which takes people on a journey. If you want to learn more about music theory, we make it easy for you at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory. Thanks for watching today. It's BusyWorksBeats.com.